Thank you for staying with us. The 19th day of June every year is celebrated as World Sickle Cell Day, as designated by the United Nations. But what is sickle cell? I'm glad to say that over the years, more awareness has been created for sickle cell in Nigeria. And it's heartwarming to know that young people now actually go check themselves to make sure that they're compatible and not likely to have sickle cell affected children should they decide to marry.
So love is not just enough.
No, love is not enough
You
anymore.
have to love each other enough to say, we're not going to get married.
Exactly, exactly. But, you know, we don't know too much about this. We have the CEO of the Sickle Cell Foundation in Nigeria, Dr. Annette Akinsh, who's a public health physician. Good morning, and she'll be telling us a lot more about sickle cell in Nigeria, in the world, as well as the celebration on the 19th of June. Good morning, Annette.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm so happy to be with you, and I love your new sunrisey set.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm happy to be here.
We won't allow you to take it away, though. But tell us.
I will negotiate.
We don't negotiate with bandits.
Far from it.
Take us through this. We know
Yes.
that sickle cell as an issue
Yes.
is not a joking matter.
It's not a stroll in the park.
It's as the saying goes, he who feels it knows it.
Exactly.
How bad was the situation? And over the years since we began to talk about, give more attention to sickle cell awareness, how have things improved?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Good. Okay. Let's set the stage a little, just to remind ourselves that sickle cell is a genetic condition. It's something that you get from your father and your mother. It's hereditary. It's not infectious. It's not caused by witchcraft. It's because these are things we still hear when we go out to the communities.
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft, or some people still call it abiku, depending on if you're, or banje. Yes,
okay.
Not as much as before.
Okay.
I'm really happy to say that. If I compare with, because like 30 years ago, we had a big survey all over Nigeria. When Nigeria was really easy to travel, we went to far north, Sokoto, Maiduguri. I traveled all parts of I was a younger doctor, trying to find out exactly how much sickle cell we had, along with other non-communicable diseases. At that time, I would say there was nothing, there was no name recognition. Today, as we go into the communities, there is name recognition. And go back to that time again, people hate their children. It was neighbors who would tell you, in that house, there's somebody they would describe the illness, and they're talking about sickle cell. But the parents would not bring their child to you to say, okay, my child has sickle cell. So it was really hidden. It was shut in the closet. Nobody wanted to talk about it. But we're talking about it more and more and more. And what I say about recognition, name recognition, is true. When you go to the communities, urban slums, even rural areas, they may still talk about abiku or banji, but they even know sickle cell. The English, and then in Yoruba-speaking areas, they will say arumolegun. Okay, I think
Arumolegun.
which means what? So what does it do to something about the bones?
Yes.
Okay,
it destroys the bones. That's what it means.
Okay, crushing, that kind of thing. Okay, even though it's not really so. If you look at what sickle cell is, they're trying to tell you that the persons who suffer this, who go through this, they have a lot of pain, because that's the hallmark of this disease.
Pain in the bone.
Yes.
Okay.
Pain in the bone, but really, if you engage with people who have it, sometimes they tell you, we can't really tell where the pain is coming from. Or those who have had children, we say labor pains, that's child's play compared with the pain I feel with sickle cell. Or if you say, like they do mostly, if we are consulting in the UK, they say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your pain? And you'd expect maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, and you tell you 20. So it's
God.
through the roof. So in other words, it is pain. And generally, what brings patients mostly to see the doctor, any patient, is pain. And for this condition, the problem is pain. So let's go back to what is it really? It is the disorder in the blood. If you remember our biology, we have different kinds of blood cells. You do remember?
Oh, I do. It's
Red
white,
blood cell,
white
blood cell, and which one again? And platelets.
Oh, really? But there was just
Three.
two.
There were three.
Oh,
Okay, the white blood
biologist
cells are the ones that fight infections.
Yes,
if you
those are
remember.
the soldiers. Those
Okay,
are the militants
if you
in the
remember
body.
that one.
Yeah.
I know you remember the
Oh,
ones
yeah,
that
I
fight.
do, yeah.
Now, the red blood cells are the ones that help you carry oxygen around the body, without which there's no life. The air we breathe, we extract oxygen from it, and it's that red blood cell that does the extraction for you. And in the red blood cell, there's a substance called hemoglobin.
Yeah.
Hemoglobin is that substance that has the problem of the issue when it comes to sickle cell. The normal one, the usual, we don't really like to call it normal, the usual hemoglobin is designated A.
Okay.
Then this sickle hemoglobin is designated S. Now, the S hemoglobin is not very efficient. It doesn't allow the red blood cell do its work properly. But do you know how it even came about? It was because from medical history, we know that eons ago, I think nature threw up what we call mutation in medicine. It threw up a strange gene that will protect the species. That was the essence. That will protect the species so that the A combines with S. You have a trait situation. It combines it. And that trait situation, what we call carriers, are protected from very severe complications of sickle cell, of malaria. So it is where you have malaria in the world that you have sickle cell. If you superimpose the sickle cell map of the world and place it on the malaria map of the world, it's one and the same. So it was nature's way of trying to protect the species to ensure that because those AAs were dying off. The AAs were dying.
Because of the vulnerability to malaria.
So, but when they combined the A with the S, the carrier state was stronger against malaria. So they survived.
That's what most people who have
ASs
AS hardly have malaria.
That's one, or they even hardly have severe complications of malaria. So we've been searching and scouring medical literature for those who have the most severe form of malaria, called cerebral malaria. We haven't found it in persons with AS.
That's us.
That's us.
The AAs.
That's us. Oh yeah, I'm AS. So I was going to say up AS. But having said that, okay, that's where we now have malaria in the world is mostly in the tropics. People say it's the black man's disease, but not necessarily so.
I was going to ask you that question.
It's not really so. It's wherever you have malaria. So right across, you also in the Asian India, in the Arabian region, anywhere across the tropics where there's malaria, you have it.
I wish we were talking about malaria. I'd have asked you. I thought, it's easy to shoot down malaria in a country, as the US did it.
And even in America, we have sickle cell, but no sickle cell came from West Africa because of slavery.
The black
exactly.
population.
So in all those islands and America, you have sickle cell. So in terms of where you have it in the world, that's why it's not just a black man's disease. I know persons who look white who have sickle cell, not the disease itself, but the carrier state. So I've seen ASs, so that's as far as, and you talked about how far have we come in terms of awareness. I think we've come a long way. And as a medical student many years ago in Ibadan, sickle cell was a pediatric disease. It was pediatricians who saw sickle cell patients.
Yeah.
It was considered a childhood illness. And why we won't be surprised, because Nigeria, in fact, let me even let you know now, Nigeria is the country with the highest burden of sickle cell in the world.
Wow.
In the world?
In the whole world, so we're number one.
And that's talking about how many people?
150,000 babies are born every year in Nigeria with sickle cell.
Wow.
150,000. Compare it with 2,000 babies every year in America. Okay, and the reason I'm even trying to come here to talk about this today is we are bringing to Nigeria bone marrow transplantation, which is the only cure we have for sickle cell in the world today. Bone marrow transplantation is very expensive. Nigerians who access it travel abroad, to the UK, to the US, to Europe, to India. And that's where they access bone marrow transplantation. But we want it to be here in Nigeria for Nigerians. So Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria has established it. And we'll open our doors on the 1st of July, by God's grace, to the public. And we're collaborating in partnership with Lagos University Teaching Hospital and Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Tennessee. They are our technical partners.
Now, you talked about because, I mean, as we said earlier, it's only he who feels it that knows it.
True.
And that pain, I don't even want to imagine it.
Because we had friends who had it in school.
I have a personal story about it,
Okay.
and it's so very, very heart-wrenching, you know, because it would seem like anyone who has a bout of sickle cell wants to do anything to get it out of the system, at least to subsume the pain as much as possible, because it is unbearable. At least
True.
That's what I've been made to understand now. You talked about the treatment, that it's that costly.
That's a cure, what we call cure.
It's a cure.
It can be managed. It can be prevented, it can be treated, managed, and now we have a cure.
Okay.
So
now,
across that spectrum is there.
I want you to talk to the three.
Okay.
First, the prevention. I think
prevention, yes. That people want to hear a lot about prevention.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at it like this. As a public health physician, I'll talk about primordial prevention, primary prevention, secondary prevention. I go to primordial. Primordial is we don't even want to have the gene in the community. But we can't do that because the gene is already in the community. So we can't tackle primordial. But we can do primary prevention. That is what it looks simplistic, though. It's as if it's very simple. Oh, prevent persons who are carriers from coming together and having children. Churches are already doing that. Remember, there are many churches who would not allow their congregation, if they're AS and AS, to come together and have. They won't marry you. They won't give you a certificate. But you know what's happening? Those couples are going to look for the pay for fictitious results.
Oh, jeez.
Now that happens. We've been approached a few times, so that happens. And they say it's love. So the truth, the way to go about it is like any genetic condition. So, it's not swept into the closet. You open up about it. You do what we call genetic counseling. And ensure early diagnosis. So let's go back again to primary prevention. That is preventing the disease from parents or couples from having a child with sickle cell. How can that happen? It's only when they know what their genotype is. But when do you know what your genotype is? Is it when you're ready to walk up the aisle? No, it's pretty late by then, because at that time there's love, and this love thing is not one. It's
emotional. It's not genetic.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's not genetic. So it's best to know when you are younger. So we're trying to make sure we integrate it. So we want to ensure that there are policies out there, and even back to legislation. So the entire sickle cell community, we who are in the not-profit space, the NGOs, want to work with government and tell government, we need you to bring out the policies. Let us do the work, the legwork for you, but come out with policies and guidelines. Policies that ensure that there's what we call newborn screening, for instance. In the UK, in America, they don't have 1/100th as much sickle cell as we have. Yet every child that's born is screened for sickle cell. So the child knows, the parents already know that the child has sickle cell and is armed with that information. So when they're growing up, and don't talk of when they get into dating age, it forms part of their conversation.
A quick one. My apologies.
No problem.
Do gene types change? Do blood groups change?
No.
Okay,
They never change. They never change.
No, I mean,
It's genetic. Once you're born with it, you're born with it. But that's something interesting that you should know. That because it's true. When a person has been transfused, and usually that's part of their management, part of a treatment, how you manage sickle cell. Sometimes they need to be transfused a lot, what we call chronic transfusion. Every 3 weeks, the patient goes in for blood transfusion. It's not easy. It's especially in Nigeria, where we don't really have blood. We have challenges with blood supply, but chronic transfusion happens. So if a patient has just been transfused, and goes for a test, it may come out AS, and it feels, and they will give you a test result, and you can't fault it, because there's the blood transfused AA blood type. That's what has been transfused. You can't transfuse with the sickle cell. Yes, and yours.
Okay.
Now you're bragging.
Now, doctor.
Yes,
we used to, I don't know if it's still said, but we used to hear that when 2 ASs marry, that they're likely to have 1 in 4 children who will be SS. But I know of a couple who decided to take the risk and pray for 1 out of 4
to be.
They have 3 children now, and all 3 of them are sickle cell.
That's not an uncommon story. In my medical school days, we had a family we looked after 7 children, all SS.
Wow. So what happened to the 1 in 4?
It's not. You see, that 1 in 4, we always ensured at every opportunity to clarify that. That is that in every pregnancy, it's as if that mother is presented a cap with lucky dip. Pick one. So the child, that pregnancy, you can pick SS the first time, SS the second. It's a chance thing. It's probability.
Hello.
So it's 1 in 4 in every pregnancy.
So you would advise don't even go picking at all. No. Don't, if you are AS, don't marry an AS.
So no in time. That is the thing. Because I remember what I said earlier about this thing being brushed and pushed into the closet and people are hiding it. You need to be open about it. We need to discuss it more. The important thing is early diagnosis, newborn screening. And there's also what we call prenatal diagnosis. Prenatal diagnosis. And you see, genetic counseling is such that when couples are properly counseled, even those who are ready to go up the altar and they're properly counseled, it's been shown that 80% of them will go their separate ways if they're properly counseled. So that they need to access genetic counseling, even if you're close to getting married. However, we need to really dial back and be sure as a country that we have a policy of early diagnosis, newborn screening. So and then if you miss that at newborn, then at primary school age, then at secondary school age, then at youth corps camp, in universities, and there are so many opportunities to be able to make sure that you determine what genotype one has. And
so, how much are you succeeding with the birth screening?
We're succeeding in terms of how much engagement we're having with the government. I had a Minister of Health in our program on Friday, I think it was. We had a panel discussion. Like I was just listening to your previous guests. That COVID gifted us with something. It opened up the world for us. We're now compelled to employ technology, and we have people talking from all parts of the world at a conference. So our politicians were put on the spot and said that Nigeria, we need to have newborn screening. So we in the sickle cell community, sickle cell space, have been engaging government. If you're not taking it that seriously, we are taking it seriously. This is what we're seeing. And but there's legislation now on the floor of the Senate and I think in the House. Different issues, but we have issues with them because we're saying it's not a question of fining and what else, jail terms for persons who are carriers, because that's what they're proposing. No, yes,
it's not their fault.
Those are the kind of propositions we're getting. So, but more importantly, let there be comprehensive laws, that particularly this question of newborn screening, so we know in time, and then increasing awareness. Let more people know about it, because knowledge is power. Once you know about it, then you will take proper decisions. Let us have genetic counselors all over Nigeria so that they counsel properly. And like I said, they lay all the cards on the table. There's no sugar coating. And they let you know what options are available to you. Because people can marry just for companionship. Do you know that? They'll tell you, I will marry, but I don't want to have children.
Yes.
Or we will adopt. Those are options that are available to you. And then there's what we call pre-implantation genetic diagnosis that's happening now. So in vitro, there's a kind of in vitro fertilization that happens. And then, science has gone far. They pick out those embryos that do not have sickle cell and infuse it back in the mother. And so I have a young person who's been talking to me about this recently, because the mother has been so angry that she wants to marry somebody who's also AS.
Okay,
but they're going ahead with it because they're going to do pre-implantation genetic diagnosis.
Sounds like there's a way around the bend then.
There are always solutions. But above all, I just want to use this platform to say that Nigerians can now access bone marrow transplantation in Nigeria. And we're getting inquiries from all over the world, from America. We're getting inquiries from America for our own bone marrow transplant program.
But you're not starting until 1st of July,
1st of July,
you said?
Yes, but we already have started our... I thought they had pictures to show of our center, beautiful pictures. The space is not like clinical... Okay,
there it is.
And then the BMT itself, the actual bone marrow transplant center. You see the colors. So it doesn't make you feel like you're in a hospital. And one of the things that's important to know is the children have to be there for months. When you prepare a patient for bone marrow transplantation, you kind of wipe out their bone marrow, and they become vulnerable to infection because the white cells are removed. Those are the machines that we use, the apheresis machine. Prepare the blood, And then what happens is actually, like the transfusion, you draw marrow. Marrow is where you get stem cells. Stem cells are cells that can become any cell in the body. That
I think I'm going to leave this studio with a first degree in medicine. But,
but that's it. It's something that's going to happen soon, and we are very proud.
Now,
in 3 weeks.
Yes, we're counting down. All our social media platforms, there's countdown every day. I think it's 25 days.
Social media platforms. Well, there's no Twitter, is there?
Anymore. That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Well, a very quick one before
please.
we sign this out. What are the activities you know to be lined up for World
Sickle Cell Day? I just mentioned one that we had a panel discussion when we had experiences and actually focused on COVID-19 and how it affected persons with sickle cell. If you had been reading around, you saw a spate of an increase in suicides amongst persons with sickle cell. But it's not just sickle cell, it's anybody who has chronic conditions, and the COVID did that to a lot of people, psychosocial impact. Yeah. So that has already happened. We also have very interesting, unusual activities like a virtual dance. And that's a virtual dance with Lekon. Lekon is our ambassador. You know Lekon?
Oh, yeah.
Lekon is
Big brother.
the ambassador for sickle cell. He happens to live with sickle cell himself. So he's our ambassador for Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria. We're using his music to do this virtual dance, choreographed by a world-renowned...
his stature.
And that will happen on the 12th, Saturday the 12th.
Okay.
On the 19th, there's a press briefing, and that's when we announce formally the opening of the bone marrow transplant center, and we'll feast our children at our center, provide what we call palliatives now.
Dr. Akinsh, we have to go, but we can't say we haven't learned something. Yeah. We have learned a lot about sickle cell.
Especially the fact that AS and AS can now marry, only they can't have children the normal way.
They have to decide that they're not going to have children.
And there are other options. Like
They'll have to come to you for that one.
Thank you very much, Dr. Annette Akinsh, who's a public health physician and National Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Sickle Cell Foundation of Nigeria.
Thank you very
much for coming to enlighten us today.
Thank you too.
And we also wish you all the best when you do celebrate Sickle Cell Day on the 19th of June.
Super. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aleo.
Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.